Chosen one, do you feel that tug in your spirit? That subtle pressure in the air, like something sacred has just entered your space. That's not your imagination. That's alignment. And this message, this exact moment, has found you at the perfect time. Not earlier, not later, right now. Because for the chosen ones, there are no coincidences. What you're about to hear isn't just content, it's a divine message. And it may very well change the way you understand your life, your pain, and your purpose. Let me ask you something important. Have you ever felt like you were born with something powerful inside you, but didn't know how to use it? Like something ancient has been sleeping in your soul, waiting for the right moment to awaken. Maybe you've gone through a season of silence, confusion, betrayal, even loss. Maybe you've been asking, why me? Here's the truth. It's not because you're weak. It's because you're one of the chosen ones. And today, I'm here to tell you there is a divine weapon placed inside of you. But here's the thing, not everyone can use it. In fact, only 1% of the chosen ones ever learn to activate it. That's not an exaggeration, that's a spiritual fact. Because this weapon isn't activated by talent, desire, or good intentions. It's activated by fire, by trial, by obedience. And only those who endure the fire without losing their faith can carry this gift with the power it was meant to release. If you've been feeling like you're in a battle, like forces around you have been trying to suppress your voice, distract your path, or bury your light, it's not random. It's resistance. Resistance against your weapon. Resistance against your gift. Because when a chosen one begins to wake up, all of hell takes notice. That's why you've been attacked. That's why you've been isolated. That's why you've been stripped down to nothing, so the divine weapon within you could finally rise. This message is coming to you as spiritual confirmation. You didn't search for it, it found you. Because you are ready to hear it now. And I'm telling you with full authority, your time of hiding is over. The silence is breaking. The weapon is stirring. And what God planted in you is about to speak. If you feel this message reaching into your spirit, pause right now, subscribe, and help us reach 1,000 subscribers. Comment a number that speaks to where you are. Drop a 77 if you feel the anointing rising. Drop a 9999 if you know you've just left a chapter behind. Drop a 33 if you've always sensed you were meant to carry something divine. Speak back. Let this message know it found the right soul. Before we go any further, if this resonates with your spirit, subscribe to Rise of the Chosen and tap the bell icon right now. This isn't just a video, it's part of your activation. Share with someone you know carries the mark of a chosen one, because they need this just as much as you do. From this point forward, what you hear won't just be information. It will be confirmation. It will be spiritual clarity. It will unlock something sacred within you. So stay close, stay open. You're about to understand why you've been through what you've been through. And more important, you're about to learn how to use what was placed inside you from the beginning. The divine weapon. Welcome to the Rise of the Chosen. This message is for you. What is the divine weapon? Unveiling the secret. The divine weapon is not something you can hold in your hand. It's not forged from steel or stone. It's not a sword you can see or a tool you can buy. The divine weapon is invisible to the untrained eye, but unmistakable in its effect. It is spiritual, ancient, and alive. And if you are one of the chosen, once it has already been placed inside you, you may not have known what to call it before, but you've felt it. In your silence, in your suffering, in those moments when something unexplainable rose up inside you to speak, move, or endure, when everything around you told you to quit. That moment when you didn't collapse, that was it. That was your weapon. Understand this, the divine weapon isn't given to make you feel special, it's given to make you effective. Because the chosen ones are not here to blend in, they're not here to survive quietly. They are here to disrupt darkness, and to do that, they must be equipped with something more than knowledge or charisma. They need something divine. This weapon is that something. It's the sharp edge of your calling, the holy fire of your obedience, the revelation you speak that cuts through confusion, the anointing that breaks spiritual chains. When you show up, it's not always dramatic, it's not always loud, but when your weapon is activated, it changes the atmosphere. Some of you may be asking right now, what exactly is it? How can I know what my weapon is? That's a good question, because the divine weapon doesn't look the same in every chosen one. For some, it's the voice, the ability to speak with clarity that pierces the spirit. For others, it's the eye, the discernment to see what's hidden beneath the surface. Some carry the gift of intercession, the kind of prayer that shakes the unseen world. Others carry presence, the power to shift everything just by entering the room. You may carry words, visions, healing, prophecy, dreams, creativity, insight, authority. The weapon is not just what you do, it's the divine current behind why you do it. The divine weapon is the most misunderstood part of your spiritual identity. That's why the enemy works overtime to distract you from it. That's why you've wrestled with insecurity, silence, self-doubt, fear, and spiritual fatigue. Because if you ever fully understood what you carry and how to use it, everything would have to change. The enemy fears the weapon in you more than anything you could ever build with your hands. Because your weapon isn't bound by this world's systems. It speaks in a frequency only the spirit world fully understands and obeys. Here's what you need to understand. The divine weapon is unlocked through obedience, not ambition. You can't force it. You can't manipulate it. You can't use it for ego or validation. It only flows through purity, through surrender, through walking the path even when it's painful, through saying yes when silence would be easier. Every time you obey the whisper of the divine over the noise of the world, your weapon sharpens. Every time you refuse to compromise your spirit for comfort, your weapon strengthens. And eventually, it becomes impossible to ignore. You are not just talented. You are not just gifted. You are armed. And when the chosen ones realize that, they stop looking for power outside themselves. They stop chasing titles, platforms, and applause. They start walking in authority because they finally understand they were born with something. The world cannot explain but desperately needs something holy, something dangerous, something real. So now I want you to ask yourself something serious. What is stirring inside of you as you hear this? Is there a gift you've ignored, a message you've buried, a knowing you've silenced because it didn't fit the world's mold? That may be your weapon, and it's time to stop hiding it. Not everyone will understand. Not everyone will accept it. But it was never given to impress the crowd. It was given to fulfill your divine mission. You are one of the chosen ones. And your weapon is not. It's already here. You don't need to go looking for it. You need to go deeper within. The divine has placed it inside you. And if you're hearing this now, it's because you're being called to awaken it. You are not here to be silent anymore. The time has come to speak, to move, to shift the atmosphere with the very gift you once believed was too strange, too heavy, or too different to. That's the secret. That's the weapon. Power, that's the divine weapon. But why can only 1% access it? Now that you know what the divine weapon is, we need to talk about something most people avoid. Why so few ever actually use it. And I don't mean those who hear about it, dream of it, or even sense it deep within. I mean those who truly access it, unlock it, and walk in it with power and purpose. Only about 1% of the chosen ones reach that place. That number isn't meant to scare you, it's meant to wake you up. Because this isn't about privilege, it's about preparation. The divine weapon isn't activated by desire, it's activated by discipline. And that's where most people turn back. You see, the divine doesn't give this kind of power to the untested. This isn't a reward for being spiritual, it's a responsibility. And responsibility has a price. It requires suffering, silence, obedience, and the ability to walk alone. Many chosen ones feel called, but the road to activation is narrow. It's lonely. It breaks you before it builds you. That's why 99% of people with the same spiritual seed never see it bloom. The pressure gets too heavy. The silence lasts too long. The betrayal cuts too deep. and somewhere along the way, they decide to settle. They abandon the path not because they aren't chosen, but because they weren't willing to keep going when everything went dark. Let me speak to your spirit now. If you've been going through a season that feels like isolation, confusion, or crushing, it's not punishment, it's preparation. The divine weapon is only activated through real obedience. And I'm not talking about just following rules or being a good person. I'm talking about spiritual obedience when your soul says yes to God's voice. Even when your body is tired, your mind is full of doubt, and your heart is breaking, that's what sharpens the weapon. That's what makes it real. That's what separates the few from the many. You might look around and see others rising faster, getting more recognition, living more comfortably. And you wonder, why is my path so difficult? It's because your path is sacred. You're not being delayed. You're being developed. What you carry is too heavy for untested hand. You're not just meant to speak truth, you're meant to carry it. And that truth must be forged in fire before it can be released with authority. The divine weapon does not tolerate mixture. It cannot be wielded by those still addicted to validation. It cannot flow through a heart full of resentment, bitterness, or ego. This isn't just about being spiritual, it's about being refined. And refinement hurts. It pulls things out of you that you thought you needed. It makes you question your identity, your relationships, even your sanity. But it's all part of the process. Because once the impurities are gone, what's left is unstoppable. This is why so few ever reach full access. The path strips you of everything false. It humbles you. It exposes you. It leaves you face to face with God and with yourself. Most people run from that kind of process. But the chosen ones, the true ones, they stay, even when it breaks them, even when they feel forgotten, even when they don't understand. Because something in them knows the pain has a purpose. The silence is sacred. And the fire is not there to destroy them. It's there to reveal them. If you're still here, still listening, still seeking, then you are not like the others. The fact that you're drawn to this message is proof that something in your spirit refuses to settle. You're one of the few who might press deep enough to unlock what was buried in you all along. But know that access will cost. You will have to let go of what you thought your life would look. You will have to say no to what looks good, so you can say yes to what is God. You will have to leave the crowd, lose comfort, and walk into unknown places without applause. But when the weapon awakens in you, you will never be the same. Only 1% make it, not because they are more holy or more loved, but because they chose to keep going when it hurt. They chose to believe when there was no evidence. They chose obedience over outcome. And that choice made over and over is what opened the weapon inside them. So now the question isn't whether you're chosen. You already are. The real question is, are you willing to walk the path that unlocks what was always yours? The weapon is not for defense, it's for destiny. One of the greatest misunderstandings about the divine weapon is that it's meant to protect you, that it's there to shield you from harm, guard you from betrayal, or keep you safe from the fire. But that's not the truth. This weapon was never given to you for defense. It was given to you for destiny. And until you understand that, you'll keep trying to use it as a shelter when it was meant to be a sword. The divine doesn't place this kind of power in your life so you can hide behind it. You weren't chosen to play it safe. You were chosen to pierce through darkness. You were chosen to walk into spaces where others remain silent and speak what no one else dares to say. You were chosen to be a light in territories where shadows have ruled for too long. And light doesn't defend. Light reveals. Light exposes. Light confronts. That's what the divine weapon does. It confronts systems. It disrupts lies. It cuts through illusions like a blade forged in truth. So many chosen ones delay their calling because they're waiting for everything to feel safe. They wait until they're healed, until they're confident, until they have enough support, enough clarity, enough strength. But listen, your destiny won't wait for perfect conditions. The weapon was placed inside you for those exact, imperfect moments, for when truth needs a voice, for when a shift must happen, for when a generation needs awakening. That's why it's They're not to defend your feelings, not to protect your comfort, but to fulfill your purpose. When you begin to walk in your destiny, resistance will rise. Not because something is wrong, but because something is finally right. You'll feel it. That sudden pressure in the room when you speak truth. That silence after you declare something no one else was willing to say. That isolation when your obedience makes people uncomfortable. That's not a sign of failure. It's proof the weapon is working. You're not losing protection. You're stepping into power. This is where many confuse their spiritual journey. They assume that facing opposition means they're out of alignment. But for chosen ones, the opposite is often true. The deeper you go into your calling, the more resistance you'll face. Because the weapon you carry is not passive, it's disruptive. It was designed to shake atmospheres, to expose deception, to break generational chains. And nothing that carries that much light goes unnoticed by the dark. Don't be afraid of that. Don't shrink back. That tension you feel, that's the weight of your assignment pressing forward. That's the sound of destiny calling. And your weapon, it wasn't made to sit dormant inside. It was made to move, to strike, to cut. Not people, but spiritual strongholds, illusions and lies that have blinded others for far too long. The more you walk in this, the more you'll see. The weapon isn't about you. It flows through you, but it's not for you. It's for others, for those still bound, for those still for those who don't yet realize they're chosen. Your weapon is a tool of liberation, a divine disruption. And the moment you stop hiding it, the world around you begins to shift. This is why God didn't hide you in comfort. This is why you were trained in silence, refined through pain, and awakened through isolation. Because you weren't meant to defend a small life. You were meant to walk in divine authority. You were meant to lead, to fulfill a destiny that echoes beyond your name, beyond your time, beyond this generation. That is why you've been chosen. And your weapon, sharp, alive, and holy, is the key to unlocking that future. You are not being armed to protect yourself. You are being armed to walk into your assignment with boldness, with clarity, with divine purpose. Because when you finally wield what was placed inside of you, the world won't just see you, it will see God's message moving through you. And that, chosen one, is the true reason you carry the weapon. Hidden forms of the divine weapon, not. Every weapon looks like a weapon. That's the mystery of the divine. The most powerful tools are often the most hidden, the most misunderstood, the most underestimated. When we think of weapons, we often imagine force, fire, confrontation. But for the chosen ones, the divine weapon doesn't always take that form. It can look like gentleness. It can sound like silence. It can feel like pain. And until you begin to see through spiritual eyes, you may not even realize what's been in you all along. Some of you carry a voice that isn't just meant to speak, it's meant to cut, not with anger, not with ego, but with divine clarity. When you speak, truth settles into the room. People go quiet. Spirits respond. Conversations shift. You don't even try, but your words carry something behind them. That's not talent, that's a weapon. Others of you carry vision. You see what others miss. You discern patterns, motives, deception sometimes before anything is even said. You've always seen too much, felt too deeply. You thought it was a burden. It's not. That's your weapon. There are chosen ones who walk into a room and immediately feel the heaviness, the pain in others, the unspoken trauma in the atmosphere. You've been told you're too sensitive, but that sensitivity isn't weakness. It's spiritual radar. It's your discernment. And when you walk in alignment with the divine, that discernment becomes precision. You can sense spiritual warfare before anyone else sees it coming. That's not coincidence. That's your weapon sharpening. Some of the most powerful weapons are born through suffering. Your story, your scars, your silence. They've all been shaping. The moments you didn't think you'd survive, they were forming the edge of your blade. The heartbreaks that left you gasping, they were forging depth. The betrayals that shattered your trust, they were removing your need for shallow alliances. Your pain wasn't just pain, it was the forge. And many of you are carrying weapons that look like wounds until you use them. Others of you carry creativity that's been dormant, a divine imagination, the ability to turn vision into voice, revelation into writing, insight into art. You thought it was just a hobby, something small, but no, it's a holy tool. Words can break chains, stories can open eyes, beauty can reveal God. Don't underestimate your gifts. Don't dismiss what doesn't look loud enough or strong enough. Divine power isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it moves like a whisper, but it rearranges everything in its path. There are also those who carry stillness, peace, presence. You don't even have to say much. Just being around you makes others breathe deeper, rest easier. You walk into chaos and things begin to settle. That too is a weapon. The world is drowning in anxiety, noise, and performance, and your stillness, that inner sanctuary, is a spiritual resistance to the chaos. Never confuse quiet with powerless. You're not passive, you're planted, and your presence alone carries weight. Some of you were born intercessors. You pray and heaven listens. You speak and the spirit world adjusts. Your prayers are not emotional reactions. They are legal decrees in the spirit. When you weep, it's not just sadness, it's release. When you pray, it's not just discipline, it's warfare. And if you've ever been attacked heavily for simply praying, understand this. It's because your voice in prayer terrifies the enemy. Your words carry authority, and that is your divine weapon. The most dangerous weapons are always the most hidden. That's why the enemy spends so much time trying to keep you distracted, discouraged, or doubting your worth. Because if you ever saw clearly what you carry, if you ever aligned fully with it, you would be unstoppable. You would break generational patterns. You would shift entire bloodlines. You would speak things into being that others only dream about. You don't need to create your weapon, it's already in you. What you need is the courage to recognize it and the obedience to use it. Maybe your weapon is hidden in your tears, maybe in your writing, your voice, your silence, your story, or your scars. But it's there, and it's waiting for you to stop pretending you're not powerful, to stop dismissing what the divine called holy, to stop hiding behind false humility and step fully into your spiritual authority. Chosen one, your weapon may not look like anyone else's. That's the point. It wasn't meant to. You are a divine disruption, and your weapon was tailored for the battle only you can win. So don't ask, do I have one? Ask instead, where have I been carrying it without realizing? Because the truth is, it's already with you, and now it's time to use it. God's message. This is not the time to hide, chosen one. Hear me clearly, this is not the time to hide. This is not the season to shrink back, to blend in, or to wait for permission. The message from God to your spirit is loud, clear, and urgent. Rise now. Something is happening in the spirit realm, and it's calling you out of the shadows. The divine weapon within you is not meant to lie dormant any longer. You've been hidden for a reason, but you will not be hidden forever. The time of preparation is turning into the time of manifestation, and your obedience will determine what gets released through you. Some of you have been hiding, not because you're afraid of failure, but because you're afraid of your own power. You've sensed it. You've felt the weight of it. You know you carry something different, something divine, but that difference has made you a target. You've been misunderstood, abandoned, silenced, and somewhere along the way you decided it was safer to stay quiet than to fully step in. But I'm here to tell you, silence is no longer safe. You were not called to be comfortable. You were called to be consecrated, set apart. And your hiding has delayed not only your growth, but the breakthrough of others who are waiting for your voice. God's message is not one of gentle suggestion. It is a divine instruction. You don't need another sign. This is your sign. You don't need more clarity. You need courage. What you carry was never meant to sit on a shelf or live in your dreams. It was meant to move things, to break things, to stir atmospheres, to call sleeping souls into awakening. And that won't happen if you keep holding back. The gift inside you has weight, and that weight wasn't given to crush you. It was given to create pressure that produces power, pressure that brings presence. Pressure that pulls the divine into places where it's been forgotten. Look around you, look at the world. Can't you feel it shifting? Can't you sense the urgency in the air? Time is speeding up. Patterns are breaking. Old systems are falling apart. That's not coincidence. That's divine timing, and in every season of shaking, the chosen ones rise. Maturity, that's spiritual authority. Chosen one, you are being summoned, because when the world grows darker, those carrying the light can no longer remain hidden. There's too much at stake now. You weren't born in this generation by accident. You were assigned here for this time, for this conflict, for this spiritual moment. And if you keep hiding, the battle will shift without your weapon. Let me say this plainly: your voice is needed, your story is needed, your presence is needed. Not when you feel ready now, because God's assignments don't wait for your insecurities to catch up. You'll never feel perfectly prepared, but your preparation already happened in the places where you cried alone, in the silence that taught you how to hear Him, in the betrayal that taught you how to trust Him, in the wilderness where you learned to walk without applause. That was your training. And now it's time to move. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be present. Show up spiritually, mentally, emotionally, boldly. Because every time you show up, the weapon in you activates. Every time you speak truth, no matter how quietly, the realm of darkness loses ground. Every time you obey that subtle whisper in your spirit, heaven responds. You are not small. You are not weak. You are not forgotten. You are called. And when God calls, the only right answer is yes. Maybe you've been asking for confirmation. Here it is. Maybe you've been waiting for the right moment. This is it. Maybe you've been wondering if what you carry is real. It is. The reason you've faced such intense opposition isn't because you're cursed. It's because you're dangerous, and the enemy hoped you'd never realize it. But now you do, and that changes everything. So I'm asking you right now, if this message speaks to your spirit, comment below with 444, the number of divine alignment, mission, and foundation. It means your calling is being activated and your path is being established. Speak it boldly. Let the realm of light bear witness to your agreement. You've been silent long enough. Let your voice be heard. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to Rise of the Chosen. Tap the bell. Share this message. Because this isn't just a word for you. It's a word for every chosen one still stuck in hiding, still questioning their worth, still believing their past disqualifies their purpose. It doesn't. In fact, your past is the very proof that God has been shaping you for something great. This is not the time to hide. This is the time to shine, not from ego, but from essence, not for attention, but for alignment, not to be seen by men, but to be released by heaven. The weapon in you is not meant for decoration, it's meant for destiny. And the moment you stop hiding, everything begins to shift. So rise, speak, move. The kingdom is watching, the world is groaning, and your divine weapon is ready. Spiritual maturity, the activation. Key chosen one, there's something you must understand. Clearly, the divine weapon inside you cannot be activated by emotion, passion, or even knowledge alone. These are powerful, but they are not the key. The true key that unlocks your weapon is spiritual maturity. Without it, your gift will remain dormant, your purpose will be delayed, and your influence will be scattered. The divine does not release authority into the hands of the unrefined, not just the inspired. Spiritual maturity is not about how many scriptures you can quote or how long you've been on this journey. It's about what has changed in you because of the journey. It's about how deeply you've surrendered, how often you've obeyed, how willingly you've walked through fire without needing to be seen or praised. Maturity shows itself in the silence, in your ability to hold your peace when chaos erupts, in your decision to forgive when offense is justified, in your refusal to speak when your flesh wants to shout. That's maturity, that's authority, that's the key that activates your weapon. Obedience, that's what sharpens the weapon. You cannot wield the divine weapon if your spirit is still tied to the approval of people. If your identity rises and falls with praise or rejection, you are not ready to carry what God has placed in you. This weapon is too scared to be wielded by someone still fighting for validation. The chosen ones are not here to be liked, they are here to be aligned. And that means learning to obey, even when it costs you relationships, recognition, or reputation. Maturity means knowing who you are in God, even when no one else affirms it. One of the deepest signs of spiritual maturity is the ability to submit your timing to God's. Immature spirits rush. They try to force doors open. They panic when things don't move fast enough. But the mature understand that delay is often divine. They don't rush destiny, they prepare for it. They stay faithful in hidden places. They sharpen their discernment. In solitude, they listen more than they speak, because they know that when the time is right, God will not only reveal the weapon, He will reveal them. The divine weapon cannot be powered by ego. It doesn't respond to pride. It shuts down in the presence of self-glory. That's why so many people with obvious talent still lack true spiritual impact. Their gifts are loud, but their character is weak. The divine doesn't trust just anyone. With spiritual power, there must be integrity, there must be humility, there must be a deep inner life that doesn't collapse when the spotlight hits. Without maturity, the weapon becomes dangerous not to your enemies, but to your own soul. Spiritual maturity is also about discernment, knowing when to speak and when to stay silent, knowing which battles are assigned to you and which are distractions. Not every confrontation is your calling, not every argument is your assignment. The mature understand that power doesn't always need to prove itself. Sometimes real strength is found in silence, in restraint, in the refusal to engage with noise. Yes, the weapon is sharp, but maturity teaches you where to aim it and when. Obedience is the pathway to maturity, and it doesn't always look glamorous. Sometimes it means walking away from what feels good. Sometimes it means saying no to opportunities that aren't part of your assignment. Sometimes it means releasing what you thought was yours to hold. The mature chosen one knows how to let go without bitterness, how to wait without complaining, how to move without over-explaining. That's what God looks for, not perfection posture. You might think maturity means you'll always feel strong, but often it means you've learned how to stand even when you feel weak. It means you've stopped asking God to remove the fire and started asking Him to refine you in it. You've stopped running from spiritual pressure and started yielding to it. That shift in mindset, that inner alignment, that surrender, that is when the weapon begins to unlock. Chosen one, your authority grows in proportion to your maturity. You don't need to be louder, you need to be deeper. You don't need to force your gift to work, you need to allow your character to catch up with your calling. Because when your spirit matures, your weapon responds. It flows, it moves, it speaks on its own. You'll find yourself doing what you once feared, saying what you once couldn't, carrying what once crushed. So today, the call is not just to awaken your weapon, it's to grow into it, to become the vessel that can hold the weight of what you can. And that comes through daily decisions, humility, discernment, obedience. That's the path. And when you walk it, the weapon will not only be activated, it will be unstoppable. What happens when you start using Chosen One? Everything changes the moment you start using your divine. And I mean everything. This is not a symbolic shift. It is a real spiritual transition. The atmosphere around you begins to respond differently. People respond differently. Even the unseen realm becomes more active, because when you finally stop suppressing the gift, the authority, the message, the presence you carry, your spirit begins to move in alignment with heaven. And that kind of alignment is never quiet. When you use your weapon, you will disturb things. Don't be surprised when resistance shows up immediately after your obedience. Don't be shocked when certain relationships suddenly shift, when invitations stop coming, When people no longer recognize you, that's not rejection, it's refinement. The more you use what God gave you, the more He separates you from what doesn't serve your mission. It might feel like loss, but it's actually preparation. The pruning is proof that you're stepping into power. You'll begin to notice a spiritual quickening. The things that once confused you will start to make sense. Your discernment sharpens. Peace deepens. Your prayers start hitting differently. You'll feel a surge in your inner life, a clarity you've never known before. It's like something ancient is waking up inside you, and you can't go back to pretending you're just normal. You'll walk into rooms and sense what's going on before anyone speaks. You'll say a word, and people will pause, not because you're loud, but because the presence in your words is undeniable. But let me speak plainly, with this activation comes weight. When you begin using your divine weapon, you will carry more spiritual responsibility. You cannot use what God gave you and still live how you used to. The Spirit will correct you faster, convict you deeper, and require more from you. You'll no longer be able to ignore the small inner nudges, because now you're not just being trained, you're being trusted. And trust always comes with greater cost. At the same time, you'll begin to see impact, real, holy impact. People will start coming to you without knowing why, drawn by the energy you now carry. You'll notice your presence brings answers, healing, or even discomfort, because what's in you confronts what's broken in them. You won't always have to preach. Sometimes just being who you are will shift everything. Conversations will turn spiritual without your effort. Environments will calm when you enter. This is not imagination. This is activation. You'll start receiving divine assignments, dreams, visions, instructions, prophetic insight. The Spirit will move through you in ways that are specific and strategic. You may wake up with burdens for people, places, or situations you don't fully understand. You might feel compelled to pray for someone at the exact moment they need it, or to speak life into someone teetering on the edge. These aren't coincidences. This is heaven partnering with your obedience. You are no longer just observing the battle. You've been released into it, but understand this opposition will still come. In fact, it may increase. But now you'll face it with power, with clarity, and with divine authority. And you'll begin to notice that things which once terrified you now bow in your presence, not because of who you are, but because of what's been awakened. The darkness knows it can't win anymore, not when your weapon is drawn. Chosen. And once you start using your divine weapon, you can't go back to silence. You won't fit into old versions of yourself. You won't find peace in places that once gave you comfort, because now you are walking in purpose. Now you are living with fire in your spirit. Now you are not just chosen, you are activated. And the world around you will never be the same again. Final instructions for the chosen one. Chosen. If you've made it this far, it's because your spirit knows. It knows this message wasn't entertainment. It wasn't coincidence. It wasn't just another video. It was confirmation, a direct call from heaven, a divine reminder of who you are and what you carry. You've been wrestling with questions, with timing, with fear, with pressure, but now clarity has come. The divine weapon has been named, revealed, and stirred within you, and you can't unknown what your soul now understands. So here is the final instruction. Stop hesitating. Stop second-guessing your gift. Stop waiting for someone else to anoint what God has already confirmed. You don't need more signs, you need to act. This is not the time to return to sleep, to silence, or to survival. This is the time to step into spiritual authority with full obedience. What's in you has been waiting for your yes, not a fearful yes, not a conditional yes, a full, surrendered, irrevocable yes. That yes is what moves heaven. Everything you've been through, every delay, every betrayal, every silent night, every moment of confusion, it wasn't wasted. It was preparation. You thought the season was empty, but it was sacred. God has been forming you in places no one else could see, and now He's ready to reveal you, not to make you famous, not to make you important, but to make you effective, because the divine weapon isn't for applause, it's for assignment. You are not just called to survive the system, you are called to confront it, not with rebellion, but with revelation, not with pride, but with power. When you step into obedience, the weapon moves. It speaks, it heals, it releases, it dismantles strongholds without lifting your hands. That's what this generation needs. Not more noise, not more hype, but real spiritual weight. And you, chosen one, you carry that weight. It's time to clean the altar of your life. Whatever's distracting you, let it go. Whatever is diluting your gift, walk away. Whatever relationships are draining your spirit, release them. This next season requires full capacity. You cannot fight giants while entertaining distraction. You cannot shift atmospheres while begging for validation. You cannot carry the glory of your assignment while clinging to your comfort zone. It's time to rise. Clean, focused, sharpened, ready. Speak life where you used to be silent. Stand bold where you used to shrink. Obey fast where you used to delay. You are not who you were before this message found you. You have been stirred. You have been called out. You have been given your weapon back. And the realm of darkness has been put on notice. The chosen ones are no longer asleep. They are rising. You are rising. If this word spoke to your soul, if something in your spirit has shifted, I want you to say so. Comment what you're sensing. Speak it out loud. Declare it publicly. Let the realm of light witness your agreement. Say, I'm ready. Say, I'm armed. Say, I will rise. Whatever words mark your awakening, release them now. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Rise of the Chosen, tap the bell, and share this with another warrior who's been walking in silence. Because the chosen ones are many, but too many are still bound. And your obedience might be the key to their release. This is the final instruction, and it's simple. Stand up. Stand up with authority. Stand up with purity. Stand up with your weapon drawn, because your name has been called. The realm of heaven is watching, and your moment is not coming, it's here. Rise, chosen one. The divine weapon is free, and so are you.